Welcome to Skinner and Chalmers Weekly Roast. Today, the great wave of non-existent fire Chommer and Skinman save Memefield.
Well, welcome back, everyone. We've got a tale for you today, don't we, Chalmers?
Oh, absolutely. This isn't just any old story. It's the one and only great Memefield fire that never was.
Careful, Chalmers. We don't want to spoil too much right off the bat. They've got to feel the suspense, the heat, the thrill.
Fair point, Skinner. But let's just say that Memefield was this close to going up in flames, and if it weren't for our quick thinking, well, let's just say Memefield might look a little different now. Maybe a bit like, well, a brick of coal, or like one of Skinner's meals.
The whole town, Chalmers. Can you believe it? I still get chills just thinking about it. And to think people actually thought I was the one who started it did.
Really, though? I mean, sure, you've had a few questionable culinary incidents over the years, but an entire fire big enough to destroy our precious city. Lofts? That's a little ambitious, even for you, Skinner.
Hey, I might be an adventurous cook, but I draw the line at torching Memefield, though I can't say I was too surprised at the rumors after that chili experiment last year.
Oh, how could we forget? The Memefield chili meltdown of 2023. Half the town could smell that thing for weeks.
Well, yeah, maybe I should have toned down the ghost peppers. This time was different. This time, we were out there putting it all on the line for Memefield.
Yes, and what a journey it was. You, me, a ragtag crew of townsfolk in a fire that, well, we'll get to that part. But let's just say that no one saw what was really coming.
Exactly. We're talking about the whole town rallied around us, people offering their help in every way imaginable. I mean, who knew Memefield had so many fire experts? It felt like we're living an episode of the series, Once Upon a Time.
Indeed, and each with their own unique techniques. You'd think half the town had trained as firefighters in their spare time. Our lofts, I still remember Larry the librarian showing up with that ancient fire hose from the 1930s.
Oh, Larry. He insisted the thing was still in perfect working order, even though it had holes bigger than my appetite.
And let's not forget Garfield. I think he offered moral support, if you could call his complaining support.
Hey, in his own way, he was there for us, although I'm not sure snoozing in the background counts as being there. Exactly.
True. But Garfield or not, we were in the thick of it. Every single step we took brought us closer to, well, what we thought was going to be Memefield's most epic showdown.
Oh, we were ready. All right. I could practically see us running into the flames, heroic music in the background, steam, billowing everywhere.
Don't forget the dramatic slow-motion run. We'd have made an amazing fire-fighting duo.
The town's new heroes! Except things didn't exactly play out the way we thought, did they?
Not at all. I mean, nothing about that day was what anyone expected, especially us. And it all leads up to the, well, let's just say a surprising twist.
Oh, yes, listeners, so buckle up, because this isn't just a story about fire. It's a story about friendship, teamwork, bravery, and maybe a little bit of mystery.
So sit back, relax, and get ready for a tale of almost flaming glory. This is one for the Memefield history books.
So there we were, Chalmers, just going about our day. Calm, peaceful, nothing unusual. And then bam! All of Memefield suddenly decided I was running some kind of underground chili arson operation.
Oh, it was glorious. First, it was the smoke sighting from your kitchen window. Then someone else chimed in with, I could smell something burning all the way from the Memefield cafe.
And let me just say for the record, there was nothing burning in my kitchen that day. I wasn't even cooking. Well, okay, I was experimenting with a garlic bread souffle, but souffles don't spontaneously combust.
Sure, Skinner. But you've got to admit, given your track record, it wasn't a huge leap for the townsfolk to think you might have accidentally invented a chili flamethrower hybrid.
Oh, come on, that's a bit harsh. One slightly singed spaghetti incident, and I'm forever branded as the town's fire hazard.
Slightly singed. Skinner, the spaghetti wasn't just singed, it had the structural integrity of charcoal.
All right, fine. Maybe I've had a few mishaps in the kitchen. But this time, it wasn't me. Well, not exactly.
Oh, not exactly, you say. Interesting. But let's not jump ahead. We've got to savor this tale for our audience.
Right. So there I was, minding my own business, when suddenly Chalmers bursts in, looking like he's ready to rally the troops.
That's because I just gotten a message. Fire in Memefield, all hands on deck. It was Chaos Skinner. People were running around shouting, it's coming from Skinner's house. And save the cafe.
Wait, people thought the cafe was on fire too. How did I miss that part?
Oh, it was part of the full Memefield hysteria package. Somebody claimed they saw flames reflected in the cafe's windows. Another person swore they heard the distant crackling of something. It was like everyone's imagination caught fire before anything else did.
Classic Memefield. Give them a whiff of smoke and suddenly it's a blockbuster disaster movie. I mean, these people also voted a goat as mayor. That explains enough.
And guess who the stars were? Chommer and Skinman ready to leap into action. When I showed up, you didn't even hesitate. You grabbed that old fire extinguisher from your closet like you were born to do it.
It's a vintage piece, Chalmers. It's practically an antique. I'm amazed the thing still worked.
Barely, but hey, it was better than nothing. So, there we were, armed with an ancient fire extinguisher and the sheer power of adrenaline, heading to Memefield Square to save the day.
And let me just say, the square was packed. It was like everyone had dropped everything to come see the fire.
Oh, yeah, they were all there. Larry from the library, Martha from the bakery, even Garfield waddled out to see what the commotion was about. Probably Sonic, Shadow, and Echo as well as Yugi were there too.
Yeah, and Garfield's exact words were, "If there's no fire, I'm going back to my nap." Very motivating.
Hey, Garfield keeps us grounded. But back to the square, people actually cheered when they saw us. It was like they believed we could single-handedly extinguish whatever inferno was waiting for us.
Chommer and Skinman, Memefield's last hope. I think I heard someone say that. Honestly, I felt pretty heroic for a moment.
And then we turned the corner and saw of absolutely nothing.
Not a single flame in sight. Just a bunch of panicked townsfolk looking at us like we were supposed to conjure a fire to put out.
That's when I started thinking, did we miss something? But no, Skinner. That was just the beginning. The sword, called fire, might not have been visible yet, but the day was far from over.
Oh, definitely. That was just the calm before the storm, or maybe the smoke before the flames. Either way, listeners, this story only gets better from here.
Stay with us, folks. You're not going to believe where this adventure takes us next.
You know, Chalmers, if I'd written a story about day, I'd have started it with, in the heart of Memefield, where heroes are made from chaos and caffeine.
And their loyal sidekick, Garfield, trailing behind with a yawn and a grumble. Honestly, the scene was already surreal before we even reached the square.
Oh, absolutely. It was like stepping into one of those over-the-top adventure novels. There we were, marching through the streets like knights on a quest, and who do we run into first? Larry the librarian.
With his ancient fire hose, I swear, Skinner, that thing looked like it had been retired during the Great Memefield Flood of 1937.
It probably had, but Larry was determined. He clutched that thing like Excalibur and said, "Don't worry, lads. If there's fire, I'll handle the first blast."
Right? Because nothing says it prepared like a hose with more patches than a quilt. But you've got to admire his spirit.
True. And then there was Wendy bursting out of the cafe with a tray of espresso shots. "Fuel for the fearless," she declared.
I'll admit that was actually pretty thoughtful. Heroic deeds require caffeine after all. We're not like the Dark One, who doesn't need sleep.
Agreed. Though I'm not sure how heroic Garfield looked, sipping his espresso and muttering, "This better be worth missing my nap."
Garfield, the reluctant hero. But you know, his cynicism kind of kept the rest of us grounded. Every great team needs a realist.
Speaking of great teams, do you remember Echo and Shadow? They popped up out of nowhere shouting, "We're here to save the day."
Oh, they were brilliant. Echo kept yelling motivational phrases like, "Go, Chommer and Skinman, the town believes in you." Meanwhile, Shadow was squinting at the horizon, saying, "Where's the fire?"
Classic Shadow. Always the skeptic. But honestly, their enthusiasm was infectious. It felt like we were leading a parade of Memefield's finest.
Finest or quirkiest, let's not forget old Joe, who waddled out of his hardware shop with a bucket of sand, insisting sand beats fire every time.
Arloff's, oh, Joe. You've got to admire the confidence. I mean, who needs modern firefighting equipment when you've got a trusty bucket of sand?
And yet there we all were, Larry, Wendy, Echo, Shadow, Garfield, and Joe, marching toward what we all thought was impending doom. Oh, and that random dude who was kept from his lunch by all the commotion and just said, "Can't you even enjoy a succulent Chinese meal?"
The townsfolk might have been a ragtag bunch, but for a moment, Chalmers, it felt like we had assembled Memefield's own Justice League.
Justice League, huh? With Garfield as our grumpy Batman.
Exactly. And you, Chalmers, were the fearless leader, our Superman of the day.
Laughs, I'll take it. And you, Skinner, were our Iron Chef.
Taucha. But seriously, it was amazing to see everyone coming together, even if the fire was still more rumor than reality.
True. It's not every day you see Memefield rally like that. And as we got closer to the square, I couldn't help but think, whatever we're about to face, at least we're facing it together.
And that, Chalmers, is the beauty of Memefield. When the chips are down or when the chili's burning, this town knows how to unite.
Spoken like a true hero, Skinner. But the real story was only just beginning.
Oh, absolutely. Little did we know the adventure was about to get a whole lot stranger. Stay tuned, listeners. This tale is just heating up. Remember what we said while the heroes of Memefield were facing the mighty non-existent fire. All right, troops, this is it. Memefield Square, the battleground where we'll make our stand. Everyone ready?
Ready for what exactly? Skinner, there's no fire. Look around. No flames, no smoke, no inferno, I said.
That's what it wants you to think, Chalmers. Fires can be sneaky, hiding in walls under floorboards, or even in plain sight. We can't let our guard down, I said.
Oh, so now we're dealing with a stealth fire. Is that what you're telling me?
Call it what you want, but I say we prepare for battle. Wendy, hand me a double espresso. I need my wits sharp for this operation.
Fine, let's go with your battle idea. Garfield, any intel from your keen feline senses?
Nope. No smoke, no charred lasagna smell, nothing. Can I go back to my nap now? That's what I said, and wait, where the hell am I even coming from?
Absolutely not. You're an essential part of the team, I said to Garfield. In fact, you're now officially our snooze sentry. Your job is to sniff out danger while looking completely uninterested.
Whoa, the honor is overwhelming. Still, don't know where this voice is coming from, LOL.
All right, team, let's assign roles, I said. Skinner, you're fire commander. Try to look like you know what you're doing.
Already nailed it. Next, chowming all along, Chalmers.
Well, Wendy, you're chief of caffeine, I said. Keep us fueled. The battle is long and the espresso is short.
Air from a distance got it. Double shots for everyone, Wendy said.
Excellent. And what about our dynamic duo Echo and Shadow?
Echo, you're our analyst. Keep shouting obvious observations like there's no fire and the square is still standing.
From a distance on it, Chommer. And, well, magically my voice is also appearing here.
To Shadows, I said, Shadow, you're in charge of, shady things. Blend into the shadows, look mysterious, and make people wonder whose side you're really on.
An aura from a distance, finally a role that suits my skill set. And hey there, Garfield and Echo.
Perfect now. We just need a strategy, I said. Picture this, we approach Memefield Calf from the east, Old Joe flanks from the south with his sand bucket, and Larry...
Skinner, we're not storming a castle, I said. Let's start by walking across the square, and I don't know, looking for this alleged fire.
Seems like a lot of effort for something that isn't even here, Garfield said, with a glimpse of anger in his eyes, because he can't take a nap here.
Nonsense, Garfield, I said to him. Great heroes never shy away from effort. Remember when Captain Hook faced Rumpelstiltskin for the first time?
Skinner, you do know that's a fictional story, right?
Detail, Chalmers, details. The spirit of bravery remains the same, I told you.
All right, brave Captain Simmer, lead the way, I said. But let's keep our eyes peeled and maybe tone down the theatrics just a bit.
Agreed. Team, let's move out. Remember, no matter what we find or don't find, we face it together.
I'm facing this with one eye closed.
That's the spirit, Garfield. All right, team, let's see what Memefield Square has in store for us.
Onward, comrades, to victory, or at least clarity. And so our fearless team began its patrol of Memefield Square, heroes on the hunt for a raging inferno or, a mildly suspicious wisp of smoke.
Heroes might be overselling it a bit. The only thing I've seen so far was the steam from Wendy's lat machine.
Steam? You think the lat machine could be the source of all this commotion?
I wouldn't rule it out, I said to you. Wendy's been known to brew espresso strong enough to wake the dead. That might explain why there's no actual fire, just highly caffeinated paranoia.
Or it's a cunning decoy to distract us while the real fire builds its strength.
Skinner, I love how your imagination works. That was a lovely moment. Let's check the bakery first, I said to you afterwards. If there's smoke anywhere, it's probably coming from one of old Joe's experimental sourdoughs.
Agreed. Onward to the bakery. We walked there and within 15 minutes. Nothing but the scent of fresh bread and... Wait, is that cinnamon I told you?
Yep, no fire here, just Joe's seasonal cinnamon rolls. Honestly, this is the most pleasant emergency I've ever been on. I just wanted to stay there and sniff this wonderful air, and then Garfield said,
Great, can we declare this case closed and head home now?
Absolutely not. Heroes don't retreat at the first sign of cinnamon rolls. Chalmers, where to next? I said.
The library. If anything's going up in flames, it's probably Larry's patience with the overdue book fines, I thought.
We've entered the library. Stay vigilant. The fire could be hiding between the stacks, I told our little adventure group.
Skinner, you do realize libraries have sprinkler systems, right? If there was a fire here, we'd be drenched already, I said.
Unless the fire has cleverly evaded the sprinklers.
Or unless there is no fire, which is what the evidence keeps pointing to all the time, say more.
Can we just take a book and leave? I need something to read while I'm napping. That's what Garfield said.
Stay focused, Garfield. The real battle is still ahead. Chalmers, did you have any leads in that moment?
Just a growing suspicion that this fire might be more conceptual than actual.
Conceptual? You think that was some kind of metaphorical blaze?
More like a higher power messing with us. Call it a hunch, but the pieces just didn't add up.
All right, last stop was my kitchen. If the rumors are true, this could be ground zero, we thought.
While walking there, I hoped you remembered to turn the stove off before we left. Otherwise, the town might finally have a reason to blame your cooking.
Very funny. Let's investigate, I said. And aha, the oven is off, the stove is cold, and not a single wisp of smoke in sight. My culinary honor remains intact.
Well, that's a relief, I thought. Although I'm starting to wonder if this whole thing was some elaborate prank.
If it was, I'd like to have a word with whoever's behind it, preferably after my nap.
Fair not, team, I shouted. Whether prank or Pearl, we'll face it head-on. Now back to Memefield Square to regroup and recess.
All right, Fire Commander, I thought. Let's see what Memefield Square has to reveal. Something tells me the biggest surprise is yet to come, I said.
Oh, Chalmers, do you remember the moment it appeared? That radiant pulse, shimmering in the heart of Memefield Square like the first dawn breaking through eternal night.
Or laughed softly, how could I forget Skinner? The air itself seemed to hum with its arrival, as if the universe was holding its breath. And there it was, the God Cube, glowing with all the wisdom and mischief of Memefield's ancient tales.
Aye, the God Cube, the stuff of legends and late-night whispers at the Memefield Inn. Who'd have thought we'd stand witness to its power? Its light washed over the square, Chalmers, like a painter's brush across a weary canvas, wiping away the shadows of that phantom blaze.
Indeed, a cleansing so serene it felt divine. But Skinner, the moment it appeared, did you not feel a twinge of guilt? A whisper in your mind, perhaps, of a pot left unwatched?
A twinge, perhaps a tad more than that. Fine, Chalmers, I admit it. My famed chili, the one I had hoped would elevate Memefield cuisine to new heights, may have been left simmering just a touch too long, I said.
Just a touch. Skinner, your touch too long nearly wove a tapestry of chaos across the square. But here's the marvel of it, the fire that wasn't extinguished before it even began. The God Cube, our friend and savior, played guardian not just to Memefield but to your culinary reputation.
And to think, for a moment, we were basking in the glory of our supposed heroics. But tell me, Chalmers, do you think it truly knew? That the cube had sensed my mistake and turned back the invisible clock to right my simmering wrong?
Without a doubt. The God Cube isn't bound by our mortal notions of time. Its light was not just cleansing, but mending. It reached into the future, saw the disaster your chili might have wrought, and extinguished it before the first ember could spark.
A guardian of Memefield's spirit, and yet it let us play the role of saviors.
Oh, the God Cube has a flair for drama, no doubt about that. It gave us our moment of glory while gently sparing the town from the less savory consequences of your culinary experiment.
Less savory, indeed. And the way it vanished, Chalmers, one final burst of light and then gone, leaving nothing but the whisper of its power and the quiet murmur of a town saved.
And us Skinner, standing there as if we had faced down dragons and lived to tell the tale. Though in truth it was the God Cube's mercy that painted us as heroes.
O Memefield, thy fires were but phantoms, thy saviors but shadows.
And thy cube a star eternal, thy true guardian amidst the chaos.
What a tale, Chalmers. A story for the ages, passed down in Memefield lore long after we're gone.
And let the townsfolk believe Skinner. Let them remember the day Chommer and Skinman saved Memefield, even if it was the God Cube that carried the true burden.
Let them believe, Chalmers. Let them believe. Very smart of us to talk about the real savior in this podcast. So, Chalmers, have you considered the sociocultural impact of our little escapade?
Oh, you're pulling out the big words now, Skinner. But go on, enlighten me.
Well, as I see it, our so-called heroics, the great wave of non-existent fire, represent a textbook case of how myths and legends shape collective morale. The people of Memefield now have a story that transcends mere survival. They have a tale of triumph, of camaraderie, of... Dare I say it? Us?
Yes, the immortalized figures of Chommer and Skinman, statues, murals, perhaps even a song or two, and all of it stemming from how shall we put it, a chili-induced quantum hiccup.
Call it what you will, Chalmers, but think of the psychological boost. Memefield citizens now look to us as symbols of resilience, of bravery, of, well, a dash of culinary recklessness, but let's not dwell on that.
There's merit to what you're saying, Skinner. Stories, especially the grand, slightly exaggerated kind, bind communities together. People need heroes, even if those heroes once set their stove on obliterate.
I believe the setting was gentle simmer, but I digress. It's the idea of heroism that matters, Chalmers. Whether or not we actually face down roaring flames is irrelevant. What counts is that Memefield now has a tale to tell.
A tale that will be passed down for generations. Pictured families gathered around a flickering screen recounting the year of the great wave of non-existent fire. Grandpa, they'll ask, what was it like when Chommer and Skinman saved the day?
And the grandparents will lean back, a glimmer of nostalgia in their eyes, and say, "Ah, children, let me tell you of the God Cube, of the steam mistaken for smoke, and of the fearless duo who stood tall in Memefield Square."
See, while Garfield napped and Wendy distributed espresso like it was liquid courage.
Precisely, and don't forget Larry valiantly wielding his antique fire hose. Oh, Chalmers, what a tapestry of valor and absurdity we've woven into Memefield lore.
Absurdity, yes, but isn't that the essence of true legend? A bit of truth, a pinch of embellishment, and a heaping spoonful of the utterly ridiculous.
It's the ridiculous that makes it resonate, Chalmers. The idea that two ordinary citizens, armed with little more than wit and whimsy, could stand at the precipice of calamity and prevail. Well, that's the kind of story that inspires faith.
Faith in the human spirit, faith in community, and most importantly, faith in us. I mean, let's be honest, Skinner, we're not exactly the first names that come to mind when people think heroic duo.
Oh, come now, Chalmers. I think we've proven that heroism isn't about brawn or brilliance. It's about showing up, playing your part, and sometimes, just sometimes, being in the right place at the right time.
And perhaps being willing to accept a little divine intervention from the God Cube.
True. But hey, if the Cube wanted us to have our day in the sun, who are we to argue?
Indeed. Here's to the year of the great wave of non-existent fire, Skinner, a year when a town's faith was restored, its morale lifted, and its heroes immortalized.
Chommer and Skinman, legends of Memefield, keepers of the invisible blaze.
A legacy well-earned, my friend, a legacy well-earned. And with that, well, let's call it an episode.
Indeed, it was nice telling you about our heroic adventure in the non-existing fire. Thanks for tuning in. See you all next time.
Goodbye, have a nice day, and remember to have faith.